There are episodes in television history that go beyond their immediate storyline and become metaphors for an entire way of living. Salvar al Soldado Mecos from Aida achieves this with extraordinary grace. What begins as a chaotic, laughter-filled misadventure soon unfolds into a profound reflection on human dignity, community, and the absurd heroism hidden in everyday survival. This episode, one of the most emblematic in the series, encapsulates the spirit of Aida, the mixture of tragedy and farce, of shouting and tenderness, of laughter as both weapon and wound. Watching it feels like watching life itself condensed into 40 minutes of madness and meaning. The narrative starts with something deceptively simple. Mecos, one of the less prominent yet emotionally resonant figures of the show, finds himself caught in a whirlwind of rumor and misunderstanding. Through a series of comic errors, the neighborhood becomes convinced that he is in danger or in need of some dramatic form of rescue. From that spark, the entire episode ignites. What follows is an elaborate parody of military and heroic tropes. The people of Esperanza Sur organize a mission to save one of their own, even though no one is exactly sure what they are saving him from. The title, a clear play on Saving Private Ryan, is both a joke and a thesis statement. In this world, every act of ordinary kindness is a battle against apathy. The first act of the episode is a masterclass in comedic escalation. Every scene builds upon the misunderstanding of the previous one, creating a rhythm that feels almost musical. Aida tries to maintain her fragile authority as the only adult in a community of overgrown children, yet her patience is constantly tested by the antics of Luisma, Eugenia, and their neighbors. What makes this comedy brilliant is its emotional honesty. Beneath the jokes lies a portrait of exhaustion. The characters are not fools, they are survivors who have turned humor into armor. Every outburst, every exaggerated plan to save Mecos is a way of coping with the absurdity of their circumstances. From a stylistic perspective, the direction leans heavily on contrast. Wide shots of the decaying neighborhood emphasize confinement, while close-ups reveal flashes of raw emotion between lines of comedy. The lighting remains intentionally mundane. No glamour, no polish, because Esperanza Sur itself is a character. The streets, the walls, the worn furniture of Aida's apartment all breathe realism. This realism acts as a counterweight to the surreal humor, reminding the viewer that the laughter is grounded in struggle. As the episode progresses, the mission transforms from a simple act of concern into a collective obsession. Each character projects their own fears and desires onto Mecos' supposed predicament. Luisma imagines himself as a soldier of fortune, a savior on a noble quest. Eugenia, ever hungry for attention, treats the operation as her return to the stage. Barajas, nervous and hesitant, sees in it a chance to finally be useful. Even Aida, for all her pragmatism, is drawn into the momentum. What binds them all is not the logic of the situation, but the emotional need to participate in something meaningful. This is where the brilliance of the script shines. It captures how humans create purpose out of confusion. The humor of Aida has always been rooted in the collision between the ordinary and the exaggerated. Salvar al Soldado Mecos takes this collision to its peak. The planning scene in the bar feels like a parody of every war movie ever made. There's strategy, leadership, and whispered codes, but all within the context of a group of unemployed neighbors sitting around plastic tables surrounded by beer bottles. The dialogue crackles with irony. The characters discuss tactics with the same seriousness generals reserve for battlefields, but their tools are nothing more than gossip, improvisation, and blind enthusiasm. It's hysterically funny, yet also strangely touching. Their grandiosity is a kind of rebellion against invisibility. Beneath the laughter, the episode addresses a theme that defines the entire series: solidarity among the broken. Esperanza Sur is a world of small people crushed by economic hardship and social neglect. Yet these people, ignored by institutions and mocked by the system, still find ways to matter to each other. Their rescue mission for Mecos may be absurd, but it's also an act of love disguised as chaos. When they band together, However misguided their reasons, they prove that community itself can be a form of salvation. Halfway through the episode, there's a tonal shift. What began as a game begins to reveal its emotional cost. Aida, exhausted by her friend's recklessness, confronts them in a scene that feels almost theatrical in its emotional clarity. She accuses them of turning every problem into a spectacle, of never taking anything seriously, yet even as she scolds them, her voice trembles with affection. The camera lingers on her face long enough for the viewer to see the pain beneath her irritation. She is angry not because they are foolish, but because she knows she cannot live without them. It is in that contradiction between exasperation and love that the genius of the show resides. From a thematic perspective, Salvar al Soldado Mecos is a meditation on the absurdity of trying to be a hero in a world that offers no rewards for goodness. The characters' efforts are doomed from the start, not because they are incompetent, but because reality itself resists resolution. Their plans unravel, their schemes backfire, and yet they keep going. This relentless persistence, so often played for laughs, becomes a moral statement. To keep trying, to keep helping, even when help is unnecessary, is the ultimate act of defiance against cynicism. The climax arrives when the rescue finally unfolds in spectacular disarray. The sequence is edited like a chaotic action scene, complete with dramatic cuts and slow-motion shots, all of which heighten the absurdity. The mission collapses within minutes, leaving everyone confused, humiliated, and covered in dust. Mecos himself, the supposed object of salvation, appears completely unbothered, wondering aloud why everyone has gone mad. The irony lands perfectly. He never needed saving, but in trying to save him, they saved themselves from inertia. The resolution is quietly powerful. After the chaos, the group gathers again in the bar, battered but laughing. Aida, though visibly drained, cannot help but smile. The laughter here is different from the earlier kind. It's gentler, almost cathartic. The episode doesn't offer moral lessons or redemption arcs, only the reaffirmation that laughter itself is enough. This is the essence of Aida. In a world where progress is impossible, connection becomes everything. From a critical standpoint, this episode also serves as a commentary on the evolution of Spanish television comedy. Earlier sitcoms often relied on stereotypes and slapstick, but Aida advanced the form by weaving socio-political undertones into its humor. Salvar al Soldado Mecos represents the peak of this balance. It uses the structure of farce to expose the humanity behind dysfunction. The writing refuses to condescend to its characters. Instead, it allows them to fail with dignity. This approach creates a kind of tragic comedy unique to Aida, laughter that leaves an aftertaste of melancholy. Visually, the episode maintains a documentary-style realism that reinforces the show's social commentary. The camera never glamorizes, it observes. Even the physical spaces, the cluttered apartments, the narrow hallways seem to conspire against the characters, reflecting their social confinement. Yet within those walls, they find freedom through humor. There's a subtle beauty in that contradiction, one that mirrors the resilience of working-class neighborhoods across Spain. The performances elevate the material beyond comedy. Paco León's portrayal of Luisma is a study in emotional transparency. His innocence, often mistaken for stupidity, becomes a vehicle for truth. When he delivers his impassioned monologue about bravery, it is both ridiculous and heartbreaking. Carmen Machi's Aida, on the other hand, grounds the chaos with her exhausted realism. Her eyes convey decades of disappointment mixed with fierce loyalty. Together they embody the duality of the series, madness and love intertwined. The sound design contributes significantly to the episode's immersive realism. Background chatter, distant televisions, barking dogs. These details construct the sonic identity of Esperanza Sur. When the noise briefly fades, particularly during Aida's introspective moments, the silence feels loaded, almost sacred. It's in those pauses that the show achieves its greatest poetry. One could argue that Salvar al Soldado Mecos is not just about Mecos at all, but about the futility and necessity of caring. Each character, in their flawed way, tries to make life bearable for someone else. Their methods are absurd, but their intentions are pure. This paradox, the noble heart inside the ridiculous act, is the emotional core of the episode. It asks a question that resonates far beyond comedy. In a world where nothing works, is love still worth the effort? The show answers again and again with laughter. Personally, what strikes me most about this episode is its honesty. I have lived in neighborhoods like Esperanza Sur, where laughter was currency and chaos was routine. There was always someone organizing, shouting, dreaming too big for their circumstances. Watching Salvar al Soldado Mecos, I recognize those faces, those impulses. It feels less like fiction and more like memory, a memory of people who refused to give up, even when their plans were doomed to fail. The show captures the dignity of that defiance. As the episode draws to a close, the final scene lingers on Aida standing by her window, looking out at the night. The street below is quiet, the noise has finally settled, and she allows herself a small, tired smile. It's the smile of someone who has accepted that life will never be tidy or heroic, but who chooses to keep living anyway. That quiet moment contains the entire philosophy of Aida. Heroism is not in winning battles, but in continuing to care after defeat. The genius of Salvar al Soldado Mecos lies in its ability to make that message feel light instead of heavy. It doesn't moralize, it celebrates. It reminds the audience that absurdity is not the opposite of meaning, it is meaning itself. The laughter, the chaos, the misunderstandings, all of it forms a tapestry of human resilience. By the time the credits roll, what remains is a sense of warmth. We laugh, but we also recognize something deeply human in these people who cannot stop trying to save each other. In the end, Aida transforms the banal into the heroic. The soldiers of Esperanza Sur are not fighting wars or facing grand villains. They are facing loneliness, poverty, and the dull ache of daily life. Their weapons are jokes and stubborn affection. Salvar al Soldado Mecos immortalizes that struggle with humor so sharp it cuts through despair. It's a reminder that in the theater of ordinary existence, even the smallest act of kindness can feel like a rescue. And in that sense, everyone in Esperanza Sur is both the savior and the saved.